Morning, the High Court in Pretoria will hand down its decision on whether the remains of former Zambian President Edgar Lungu should be repatriated for a state funeral or be buried in South Africa by his family. Now, Lungu died in a Johannesburg hospital now 2 months ago, and his remains have been at the centre of a legal dispute between the family and the Zambian government. His widow says he didn't want President Hakainde Hichilema to be part of his funeral, while the government there has dismissed her claims as scandalous and vexatious. Our reporter, Quinita Hunter, has the latest on the story. Quinita, so as we wait for this court decision to be handed down, it's very interesting to reflect on what was, shall we say, a very strained and difficult relationship between the late former president and Hakainde Hichilema.
Yes, and this is obviously because Edgar Lungu decided before his death that he will re-enter politics and take on Hakainde Hichilema, his successor, and that's when he was stripped of all his benefits as a former head of state and was subjected to be an ordinary citizen at the time when he fell ill. The family says that his life was made very difficult. He did not get state treatment. He had to seek treatment in his personal capacity to come to South Africa to get that treatment for cancer, and that his travel here was made difficult. And for that reason, they say that the government should have nothing to do with him. Now, this matter, Michelle, has tested political, legal, as well as diplomatic issues. It's been a stalemate for more than 2 months now. And at the center of it is the family saying that they don't want the incumbent government to have anything to do with the legacy of the former president, Edgar Lungu. Now, the issue around legacies of former heads of state and how they are buried and what that and how that plays a part in their legacy is an important one, especially here on the African continent. For more on this, let's talk to Dr. Charles Sinkala. He is an expert on international matters. Doctor, thank you very much for your time. Why is the issue of the burial so important when talking about the legacy of former President Edgar Lungu?
Thank you very much and good morning. It is very important because you see Zambia enjoys a significant of succession in terms of legacy for all presidents. And it has been said as a precedent that all former presidents of heads of states and government who presided over Zambia are given a certain preference in terms of burial. In fact, there's an embassy park where most of them who have passed, they have been laid to rest.
And so the family obviously bringing in the politics of the day and the political dispute between Lungu as the former president and his successor. Is there any way that this matter could have been resolved outside of the courts?
Yes, indeed. Several attempts has been made, as you've likely heard from the news. And, this has taken over 2 months, since the passing of the former president of Zambia. And efforts to repatriate the body has been very difficult because of different views. In fact, when he died on the 5th of last month, the other month in June, there was an application for the export of the remains from South Africa to Zambia, which was granted by the South African government. But through that process, it was halted because the family have a view which they share that, the current president should not attend the funeral. But when you look at the declaration of the funeral as a state funeral, that brings the president or the incumbent president in position to attend that funeral. So that's where the dispute has been ringing around. And I think at some stage the Zambian government had to decide that they should leave the matter in the hands of the family. Probably the family shall go to the government, and facilitate this state funeral as a team. Now, they realized that they were almost burying. That's why the injunction was deposited at the High Court, so that the High Court may decide, what is fair, not on an individual interest, not on a political interest, but on various interests such as diplomatic protocol and as well as international relations and international law, and as well as the Zambian law has to be considered, as well as they consider the wishes of the deceased and the family. Also, the Zambian people, how will they attend a state funeral which is held outside the state, where the former president, was supposed to be buried. So those are the issues that I think today is a historic day that we shall hear the judgment that shall be passed, which will set a precedent not only for the African continent but the rest of the world on how these issues should be handled in terms of tensions and disputes.
We know that Acting Judge President Aubrey Ledwaba said that he wanted to wrap up this matter quite soon this week. That's why he set down judgment for today. It's a full bench, basically the top legal minds of our judicial system, dealing with this particular matter. I would assume that the conflict between the family and the government of Zambia of the day will continue far beyond this particular judgment, whichever way it goes.
Yes, indeed. There's two parties who have the Zambian government who deposited the case, the matter first, and the family has been responding to such a matter. And where you have such a very significant matter for the high profile, you've got two different views. And most of them, both parties have got, different views of how they would like the outcome to come. Of course, the Zambian government would like to give, the precedent and respect the protocol, of what has happened in the past, and as well give the chance to the Zambian people to see and pay their last respect for the former president. Of course, the family as well would like to do the private funeral, and this has been a conflict where the judges now, the full bench, would decide, how can a declaration by the president of Zambia declare a state funeral can be changed to a private funeral. And I think some parameters in terms of jurisdiction has to be considered in terms of what area of the law should the South African judiciary should consider, and what law of the judiciary should be considered in Zambia.
Thank you very much. As you hear, Michelle, a complicated matter bringing together a political dispute, a legal dispute with obvious diplomatic consequences as well. But we hope there will be some finality in this matter when the full bench delivers their judgment later on.
And very quickly, Juanita, do we know exactly what time that judgment will be handed down?
We have been told between 11 and 11:30, so in the next sort of 2 hours, we will get a sense from the judge president, and we know that the family of Edgar Lungu will be here, as well as the Zambian state attorney also watching proceedings this week. We'll definitely go to them for reaction once we have that judgment and unpack what it actually means going forward.
Certainly. Juanita Hunter, live to us there in Pretoria, the High Court. Thanks very much indeed.